Hey guys, welcome back to the Hustlin Horsepower YouTube channel featuring this new small tire no prep build, our 1933 Dodge. It's pretty cool seeing all the young guys growing into the sport and working on their own projects. So guys, I greatly appreciate it, and stick around for more tips and tricks and see the whole process of this car coming together. I appreciate it guys, and we'll be back probably doing 3 to 5 videos a week. So stay tuned. Okay guys, now that I had this up in the car and everything like that, I went and marked the angle. Now you can see that this mark right here, kind of see it, it is offset. It's not offset much. There's only like a 5-degree taper on that, but that's a marker. So now I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna explain the process to you on the notch. Okay, I just used a flap wheel that you see sitting over there, and usually the porta band, and it's the most efficient way to notch tubes in my opinion, unless you have an actual tubing notcher, and we'll probably be using the mill that they have over here before too long. But you can make a really good notch with a cutoff wheel and a flap wheel. So I'm going to explain this in a short while when I flip this camera around. Alright guys, now that I know this is here, I'm going to go through here, mark my line. It's just offset a little bit. Okay, boom. I'll do this one too while I'm at it. Now you go here, boom, 180 degrees off from it, here, and mark 180 degrees off of it. Make sure it's right, okay? Make sure your lines are right. It's aiming inward. Make sure this one's right. It's aiming inward just a little bit, okay? Now that I marked this and this, put a line at the bottom. I'm going to go through here, and this right here is about a 1/2 inch thick. A 1/2 inch thick is 1/3 of the tubing diameter because we're using 1 5/8 tubing. So go through here like this and orientate this guy so it's not in either direction. Come on, come be a superstar. You want to be a superstar? Want to be a superstar, Winnie?
Winnie does. Sleepy does. What's he got?
Okay, so we got our marks in there, and that's about a 1/2 inch. 1/2 is 1/3 of the tubing diameter, and that's all the fillet that you need or overlap onto the next tube to make that work. So I'm gonna go through here. I'm gonna notch this. Then you go 90 degrees between these 2 points. So there's about there and about there. Then you just connect the dots. Alright guys, we are not wrapping up the video just yet, I don't think, but it is essentially day 2, I guess, of the build. I got the main hoop bent up in there. You saw that earlier in the video. A couple videos ago you saw me set up the lift so the rails are perfectly level. These bars are sitting at 0 degrees to earth, okay? I didn't even have to do a reference to the lift because we already referenced the lift to earth, okay? So 0 degrees, and 90 degrees. I chose to go 90 degrees because I do like the fact that, I don't like the fact, I should say, that my rear bars aren't gonna run parallel to my seat, okay? I'm gonna make an auxiliary bar for that. By running the bar vertical, it'll make all the back bars nice and easy. Make everything nice and square, and gives me a little more room inside the cab. These trucks are freaking small. They're sizable in the back, but they're pretty small up front. As you can see, these rails I'm doing a little bit differently than I did the homegrown Hustler. I'm leaving the open end in the front, open end in the back. That's to save a little bit of weight and have a little bit of security. I could either run like a fuel line in here, fire suppression line in here, electrical in here, whatever it may be, okay? I could run whatever type of stuff inside the line here. I'll probably do a brake line and stuff like that on that side. Maybe do some electrical will be underneath the passenger seat. could run like a 3/8 fuel line in here just for street driving and stuff like that, for a rear tank in the back. Like I said, I'll probably take this thing on like sick week or something like that at some point, maybe even this fall, depending on how quickly I can work and depending on how the economy goes. But I'd love to go 200 in this thing. Yeah. So here at 53 inches back, I did the rails 31.5 inches wide. The factory frame rails that will be going on the front of this car are 32 inches wide. That'll give me a 1/4 inch on each side. By having a 1/4 inch on each side where the frame rail meets up, that will allow me to run some plate in 360 degrees around here. So there'll be a 2-inch wide, because the frame rails are 2 inch by 5 inch on the factory 1930 Plymouths, or 33 Dodges. 30 Plymouths too. The Dirty 30 was a 2x5. So it's 2 inches wide, 5 inches tall. By going 2 inches wide and having this at 31.5 inches, it gives me a 1/4 inch of material from the inside of the pipe, or the outside of the tube rather, to the frame rail. That will allow me to encompass the tube 360 degrees. So I'll have a weld inside there, and then another piece that's butt welded to the front, and it'll have that sleeve in there. Okay. By doing so, it's slightly overbuilt, but then certain things you just can't overbuild it, in my opinion. So it helps locate it. Okay. A lot of people make mistakes in fabrication, in my opinion. I'm no professional. I'm pretty self-taught on just about everything, but common sense goes a long ways in a lot of different aspects of life. By letting that encompass the tube, the butt weld is not holding the tube in place. It's just holding it. It's just holding it there, right? Now, if I encompass that with 360 degree hole with the tube sleeve through it, there could be no weld here, but the tube still can't go back and forth, right? It can slide forward and backward a little bit, but that's all the weld is doing. The weld's not actually holding the tube there. There's a lot of frequencies, there's a lot of vibrations in race cars, and just by sleeving that tube there, it adds a lot of safety features, in my opinion. So there'll be like a 1/8 inch 2x5 sleeve that I'll make in there, and I could actually probably make that here pretty soon. I don't have to until the frame rails get them, until they're all cleaned up. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go tack weld these in, and then brace it up a little bit, then probably slip the body back on, start measuring for the door bars and stuff so the body's gonna come on and off a few times, but it's just easier to do it that way. So yep, time to get back at it. As you can see, I made a little bit of progress since the last time we were here. It's been a couple hours, and yeah, my phone died. I had it charged, or I had it charging as I was recording, but apparently it wasn't. So it died. I lost some footage. But hey, the producer sucks of Hustlin Horsepower. But here we are. I got everything jigged up. As you can see, we got some 3/8 bolts in here. 3/8 bolts are cheap, and they have friggin' 5-gallon buckets of them. So it's kind of like a pegboard, right? If you put pegs in the area, stuff can't move, right? So I got 2 3/8 bolts on either side of the main rails here. I got the number 1 bar in and fit. I'm going to be tack welding that shortly. The jig is all clamped down. This bar right here is 90 degrees to the lift. It's going to be 90 degrees to the motor plate, or parallel with the mid plate, and everything checks out. Okay, from this bar to this bar is 82 degrees. From this sill bar to this bar is 82 degrees. It's perfect. Now, what does that mean? It means this body has an 8-degree taper. It's like whatever it is, 46 on the back, and I went 31.5 inches at the mid plate, 31.5 inches to the outside. That leaves me, the firewall and frame rails are 32 inches wide. That leaves me a 1/4 inch per side. By having a 1/4 inch per side, it leaves me material there so that I could sleeve this into the factory frame to give it a little extra rigidity. So now that this is all square, I'm going to get ready to TIG weld this in here. So guys, parallel, and how do I measure, make sure everything's right? Double check yourself. I go and get something, any type of flat piece, round piece, it doesn't matter. It's not going to damage it or nothing like that. You go through, okay, and we find the apex of the tube. The apex of a tube is basically what touches, if you're on a hard flat surface and you have a round piece, there's only one piece that's going to be touching the ground. That piece is the apex of the tube. To find the apex of the tube, just a flat piece, and you go over it, okay? Because we know this is 0 degrees, this is 0 degrees, everything's good, right? So by running this on here, you go and find there will be a apparent line. Now, I didn't show it in the video because, you know, I'm not a YouTube superstar, but I went up and I polished up all these bars, took off all the mill scale. The reason I did that is because this bar has a whole bunch of bars attached to it, this bar has a whole bunch of bars attached to it, and the main hoop has a whole bunch of bars attached to it. I'm probably not going to do it with every bar in the car because certain bars only have 1 or 2 attachment points, and I'll just polish those ones up in those areas, okay? So now I go through here, and ooh, I was almost a really bad YouTuber. You going through, and I measure from the front here, and it is 53 3/8 to the apex of the tube, because we found that line here. You go through to do the same here. It is 53 3/8. And then on the back tail, I left 1 inch. I left 1 inch on the back side, because then I could, if I wanted to, I could splice in a piece here. We're not going to. It's not me anything structural. But if I wanted to add like a running board outrigger out here, there's enough room to splice in here and add rosette welds. But the main purpose is just for heat dissipation when you're welding and stuff like that. I don't want to leave a little bit here, and not normally, there's different ways to do the main rails. I want to do my main rails so they're open ends on the front and the back, so I could run protective things through the main rails. So like anything from fuel lines to coolant lines. You could substitute your, I wouldn't recommend it with pure water because then you'll start rusting your tubes on the inside out. But if you're using water with like a rust inhibitor, you could run your coolant lines through your tubes. Or you could use them as puke tanks, overflow tanks for the methanol. I could run it from my breathers down into these tubes and run them back into the main rails, okay? You wouldn't want to necessarily do it on a tube like here. You'd want to do it on like the inner rail because it will go all the way to the back of the car. That's neither here nor there. Getting ahead of ourselves. Trying to keep it simple for you guys, but also give you enough information. So guys, I test fit the main hoop already. And now after I tack this, I'm going to test fit it again, make sure my notches and everything are nice and good, and then I'm going to measure, make sure the cab will fit on here. After that's all good, I'm going to get a couple tack welds on this thing and probably start working on my floor pieces. So we have a whole floor and a main hoop. You got to run the floor so that I could get my tranny out the bottom because I'm not strong enough to lift the freaking tranny out the top. With my stomach issues and stuff like that, I could really hurt myself. So I got to be very smart on how I build the car and ease of use and stuff like that. So we'll have some bars that come in through here and back all the way down. And we'll probably do those on a 22-inch center because that's the center of my rear end bars. You want to have all the forces working in a linear line to optimize the chassis. So yeah, there's a couple tips and tricks for you. And it is probably about 1:30 in the morning. And I gotta get rid of you guys so I can get back to work. So you know you got your notches pretty close when you got 131 inches of tubing, just freestanding, no tack welds or nothing on it. Alright guys, it's about 5:30 in the morning. The sun's coming up and it's almost time to clock out. Hey, I burned out one of my lights too. It's almost time to clock out a third shift and punch back in for first shift. Maybe run in there, make myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something. And I've always said if I can pay myself $5 an hour, I'd be able to make it in this industry. But day two is winding to an end here kind of quickly, but main hoops in it, main rails are in it, crossbars are in it, body's set in place, everything is squared up. So I measured up the body in multiple locations, notched the firewall a little bit. It's stuck out a little bit. I trimmed those tabs up a little bit, and everything is lining up pretty dang nicely. I got the bars in a location that the body's, everything's pretty good. I'll explain that maybe in the next video or something like that. But this is probably going to be enough to wrap up this video because a fair amount of work to do to turn into a 15-20 minute video. So I got the main, the factory mounts and stuff like that are right at the right height to the new frame, main rails and stuff like that, main supporting frame, main hoops in it. Next will probably be the A-pillar bars. I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to do those in one piece all the way to the firewall, or if I want to come down and straight down. With the suicide doors, you could get away with having the doors, the X's on a little bit more severe angle, because it'll come from up here to here, and then from here and back down. The only thing I don't like about that is you got to have a secondary bar at the mid plate, and I really like having my door X's go all the way to the mid plate if possible. Now most cars don't do it that way, but it's a lot, I feel like it's a little bit stronger that way, a little less tubing, and all your forces are really keeping that motor in place. Very good crush zone, or the lack of crush zone. If something happens, that motor's not going to come in on you. It doesn't, of course, if we don't do it that way, we'll have supporting bars off the dash bar to keep that mid plate from coming in on us. And luckily enough, the firewall is only 32 inches wide here, so the tabs on the mid plate are quite small, so it doesn't give you a lot of flex. I see a lot of people going and mounting their mid plates freaking super wide, and they wonder why they have issues. That aluminum, I don't care how thin it is, or how thick it is rather, it's gonna flex, it's gonna move a little bit. So engine limiters are kind of needed if you don't have some good supports on the backside of the mid plate, not much farther wider than your transmission, or bell housing I should say. So yeah, I got the centers marked up, tabs in there nice and square, and then I'm gonna go get myself a little bite to eat, and yeah, come back out and start measuring some stuff. So guys, appreciate everyone that likes and subscribes to the channel. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot more building going on here shortly, and I'm hoping to have the main cage done here in the next, I shouldn't say few days, but few days.